inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher, unlock the fire in you, cause real women don't bitch, no, real women don't, 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 real women don't bitch.
Hey, 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 thank you for joining me on the Real Women Don't Bitch podcast. This is your proud host, August Crenshaw, aka Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. I am the #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs because building mental muscle is necessary in order to implement successful business strategies. This show has been created for the woman who is not excuse-driven and needs help building a profitable business. I will be interviewing women from various fields who are willing to break the silence on struggles that specifically affect female entrepreneurs. Welcome to a show where I and guest speakers from time to time share our methods that help us beast our business no matter what is going on in our lives. Whether you are an online or brick and mortar business owner, this show is for you. We will hit every angle, personal, professional, and spiritual. Why? Because on any given day, you get hit with shit from a scenario involving one, more, or perhaps all of the above. It all impacts you and your mindset towards your business. I have made it my personal mission to provide a space where we dive deep into the BS we face on a day-to-day basis. Oh, part 2. Oh, God, I'm sorry. I have to start this segment the way that it is. We had just a teeny tiny pre-convo prior to this segment. Oh, and me and Imani Aisha. Yes, I got my guest back with me. For those of you that have been trying to say it one more time.
Hey.
Hey. I got her with me one more time, you guys, because we're going in, right? We're doing Real Talk for the Wifepreneur. And we talked last week about how to rethink your time and your biz in your bedroom. For those of y'all that missed that, you want to go back because it got a little hot. You got a little HOT, but now we bringing it back for another segment, and we were cracking some some crazy jokes. They gonna come back out in this segment. This is part 2, though. We're doing this because as women, as wives, dealing with all the drama that we face with building our business and staying connected to our spouses, for a lot of us, it's real. You know, unfortunately, a lot of you are beasting your business and you don't feel connected to your spouse. You feel like your marriage is one thing, your business is another thing, and some of you are going all in for your business and the marriage is slacking. And so we're having real conversation around healing your relationships. And so today's segment is how to get the support, that S word. How to get the support you crave as you go hard for your dream, discussing how to really communicate and request support in a way that lands. Oh, I'm going to stop. Come on, just go ahead and paint the picture for me. You could be anybody.
Even I felt it, like when you said the S word, I felt it, like the support, because in growing my business, I still have to have conversations, with my husband. It's a constant thing. And that, you know what, that's going to be the first thing I'm going to say, that it's a constant thing, because I know some women say, well, we had this conversation. I said, well, when? Well, when I first started my business, then that was it. That's the end of the book, period, right. End. The end. I'm like, okay, well, you're still in business. Yeah, it's been, a few years. You've had one conversation really about what this looks like. And so it is. And I feel it. It's one of those really big things to feel like you've got somebody in your corner, because entrepreneurship is an endurance game, y'all. Let's just be honest. We've got to be the ones that when we show up and nobody else does, we keep going. When we put something out there and only one person buys, that we keep going and we do it again. When we have something, crazy happened with a client and their money didn't go through, that we figure it out and we keep going. When technology tries to beat us down, we keep going. Like, it is a marathon we have to run. And, if you visually think about a marathon, right? If you've ever, I'm from New York originally, there's a lot of, you have the New York Marathon, people running, but there's marathons all over. You have people at checkpoints giving you water, you're wiping you down, meeting you at the finish line. There is someone there, people there to support you as you are getting through it, because it is not something you're about to do on your own without that support. So it's such a big thing, really. That's the picture. That's the visual I want you guys to have. I want you to have that visual of you running your business marathon, you know what I mean? And then you having your spouse there, your husband there with you throughout the process. You know what I'm saying? So I would just start there, but we didn't really dig into it, but that's the gist. That's that visual I want you guys to have.
Yeah. You know what? I'd like to join you in the visual, because as you were talking, it made me think about NASCAR, the race, because that's a high intensity, get it in. And you got the danger, you have but everybody's going for that goal. But the same thing is, you're going around, you got to stop at that pit. You got to check that oil. You got to look at those brakes. You got to change those tires. You got to make sure that transmission, all that stuff is good. And you can't just keep going without having a pit stop. So your checkpoints, your pit stops, lady. Yes, the conversations have to continually be had. And I mean, and let's just be honest. When you start a business, for instance, not everybody's circumstance is the same thing, but when you start a business, a lot of times support looks like cheering for you. Just believing
you got it, girl.
Come on, I believe, baby. And it may even be because it's pulling on the finances. You don't see the husband support. I don't want to go too far yet, but it also may look like, can we get some funds to help me build this business? But as you begin to get clients, sometimes support could be, will you listen to me while I talk about my business and be engaged? Some of you, like, I used to sell jewelry. Will you please come to the vendor event with me or help me set up? The support begins to morph and it looks different.
Exactly.
Depending on the phases and the stages of the business. And so that's not to really get into the meat of our conversation, but I'm just saying that's why we got to do what you said, Imani. We got to have these conversations constantly throughout the process of building our business, because it's not enough to just say support me, let alone not to say it again and to reiterate when, where, and how as your business is changing.
Right. Oh, you hit the nail on the head, and that's it. And so it is. We are digging in. We're shoveling a little bit because, and I appreciate the NASCAR analogy because my husband's a auto tech, so he's always talking about taking care and maintaining the cars and how that correlates to relationships. But you talked about how it looks different. You talked about starting your business and you have that cheerleader. But let's talk about starting your business. When you start your business, you have no idea what the heck's going to happen or what you're going to do or how it's going to look. So you have the conversation. This goes in deeper into why you need to communicate with your husband throughout the process, that evolution that you talked about. Because when you start your business, you don't know what you're doing. No. You don't know what's going to happen. There's so many unknowns. You don't know how it's going to pull on your time. You don't know how many clients are going to come in that you're going to need to take care of. You don't know all of the financial things that are going to come up, like, oh man, you have it where you've got the free version of something and you're like, oh, now I have this demand. Now I've got to upgrade. So now you have new monthly expenses. You do not know this. There's no crystal ball. So if you just say, okay, baby, I'm starting this business, support me. And they say, yes, baby, I'm going to support you. They don't know what they're supporting because you don't know. Yeah. So, like, you don't know what's going to happen. So the conversation really needs to be, you know what? I don't really know what this is going to look like, but this is the vision that I have. This is what I'm trying to do. This is why I'm trying to do it. And, as I go through it, I may need to request some things of you. I may need, some help. I may most likely, need you to, and we're going to talk about kind of defining support in a minute, but, to support me. And this is, what I don't exactly know what that's going to look like yet, but, stay tuned. Because you don't know. We don't know when we first get in. I'm like, oh, I had no clue. You know what I mean? It's like, It's like motherhood. They just gave me, they let me take my baby home and said, here, you know, keep her alive and well and ticking, you know.
Real talk.
Expect, and people told me, you know what I mean? So, you know, August can come to you as a coach and say, this is what you're going to expect, and this is what, and all of those things are going to happen, but they're going to happen uniquely for you, right? You're going to, there's certain principles and certain things are going to happen, but it's going to be unique for you because you're you and it's your business. And it's the same thing with trying to deal with that within your relationship. You might have, somebody told you like, oh, this is how it's going to be, and I'm going to need this, and I have this whole flow chart, and I feel you. I love me some charts, y'all. I'm not going to lie. I have this whole thing planned out, and then, you know, things start to change and you have to adjust with that. And so if your business is evolving, but your marriage and what support looks like isn't evolving with it, marriage is going to get left behind.
Ouch. That right there, that was real. And I mean, yeah, you kind of already started going into that first point of we need the support, but why don't we get the support? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you didn't know from the beginning. And to be honest, I mean, I'll use myself as an example. I was like, okay, once I first started this entrepreneurial endeavor, I'm a life coach, author, motivational speaker. That's where I started at before I evolved into all that I am now. And it was like, oh, well, it ain't no big deal because I had this visual. I had did some research. I'm going to get out here. I'm going to write these books. People going to read these books. They going to come to me. They going to have me coach them. Then I'm going to get paid. Yeah. Did not work like that. And so, you know, my husband was supporting me because he was like, okay, well then cool. I got this job. It's very lucrative. I might just take a couple other, you know, he was an independent contractor. I may take a couple of other assignments and, you know, do a little bit more cleaning. Air ducts, do this stuff. Bam. You can build your business and beast it. And as we're going, it's like, wait a minute. So I got to market myself. I got to do like 3 live videos. I got to understand what it means just to write posts. And it's taking me forever to think about what in the world I'm supposed to be writing. And even though I'm a speaker, I got to think of video topics. Wait a minute. Okay, so hold up. When he gets off of work, can you get the kids for 5 minutes? I've been wanting to do a video all day, but they've been running around crazy. I haven't been able to do this. And it's like, man, you know, I'm tired. Why don't you support me? You know?
Amen.
And there it goes. And it's like, what are you talking about? I've been supporting you all doggone day because I just worked X amount of hours for you to get to do what you're doing. And that reality had to hit me for me to say, hey, babe, this is what's going on. This is what's required of me on a daily basis. And this is what it looks like.
Yes.
And I know that you're working and doing what you're doing, but because of our situation, do we really want to put the kids in daycare and to have that money go that way? Is it better to have them here, even though you're tired? How can we work this thing out? And that was like one of the first big dilemmas that we had. But I sit down and paint the picture of my experience in order to ask him for help and support. And that didn't last for long. I'm going to stop right there because we had to come back and have some more discussions.
Oh, yeah. Well, let me ask you, because you said, you know, and I love that, you know, you can do this, you're, you know, talking about your experience. So let me ask you, you painted the picture. So this is now that I know, now that it done kicked me in my face, now I know this is what the picture looks like of, oh, I'm spending this time. There's all these other tasks I have to do that I didn't know I had to do, and they don't get spontaneously done by fairies and goblins. So I've got to do it. So that's more time on me. So what did support look like for you when you had that conversation?
For me, support actually meant him taking on some extra tasks. And it specifically was like, okay, look, support for me because of the way my mind functions. I like things decent. I like them in order. And I'm just managing the whole thing with taking care of the house and taking care of my business. It was like, babe, can you at least just put a load of laundry in, you know, every other day? On these specific days, I'm not going to go live every day, but on these specific days, can the kids go in the room with you? I don't care if you muzzle them.
Tie them to the chairs.
Tie them down, you know, but can you keep them? And we need to switch gears? You know,
Right.
I want to serve you. I know that you're spoiled. I was getting up and making breakfast, but how about you do this with breakfast, or either you make your lunch, or when you come home from work so that I don't have to cook, can you stop and get them steamed veggies from the skillet and fish place or whatever? So it was like I needed him to incrementally step in to take some of the responsibilities off of me of my traditional wifely duties that I used to love doing, but I didn't have time to do because stuff was mounting against me, and I was feeling stressed because it wasn't enough just to know that there were tasks I had to do every day. I needed quiet time to get in a zone because I was also researching this stuff and internalizing it and digesting it. And that was a heck of a transition because he stepped in, but he didn't step in right away, and he did not step in with full force.
Right. And you know what? Oh, I love how you set me up in these ways. You know, I just, because you just say all the great things that are just the real to dive into, because there's so many women that come to me and say that's the first thing that goes, you know, are the domestic duties that they have to do in the house. Because when you're, the real talk, when you're out working a job, you can easily compartmentalize work and home. When you're there's no laundry at your job.
No,
right? There's no laundry there. Your kids aren't running around when you're at your job. And so when you're at work, you're at work. And the funny thing is, when you're working a job and building your business, trying to maybe get off your job, you might find that you have more time, because nobody works from 9 to 5 really. Like there's usually, unless you have a big project, there's, you know, space within that. You might find you have more time to work your business then. You compartmentalize, and then you come home and you cook or you bring something. Yep. So it's when you work in your home, right, and you don't necessarily have someplace to go, compartmentalizing that doesn't come as easily. You have to figure out what works for you. And for you, the support was, okay, now I need to request specifically, you said these are the things to take on some more household tasks for our household, right? But you said, hey, I like doing these duties as the wife, but now there's an adjustment that's happening. And what some women do is they just make the adjustment and the stuff is there. And they're like, well, do you see it's there? You're supposed to just do it. You know, it has to get done, right? But you have to understand that you came up to it and said, I know that you're used to this. I know this is what we used to do. Your husband is like, you know, you can't just flip the script on somebody and then in the middle and not have the conversation about it, not communicate about it. So you did that. And that's what you need to do, Layla. I just want to reiterate that you have to have as you learn what you really need, you have to have the conversation. It has to be specific. Support means nothing. The word in and of itself, what the heck does that mean? Exactly. Don't assume that your husband knows what that means. Even if he says, yes, I will support you, you have no idea what that means to him. Yeah. Right? So maybe ask him like, okay, what does that look like for you? But the reality is it's your request. You know what you need. And you specifically asked for it. But I love that she said, it did not happen right away. It did not happen.
Oh,
no. You know, it did not.
No. And it was crazy because sometimes I would be like, hey, you know, number one, men, they think more on the lines of, okay, there's a task that needs to be done. There's money that needs to be made. I need to provide. Yeah. And so one of the things that my husband was looking for, okay, I'm going to support you by working these crazy hours so that you could build your business. And one of the things that will allow me to woosah is that you actually get some business. Yeah. Like, come on, ladies. You started your business and it isn't as profitable or it isn't profitable at all. Every time I turned around, I was like, okay. And unfortunately, because I made a lot of mistakes, I was like, okay, I got to invest in this software and that software because, you know, I need to prove to the universe that I am ready to run my business. And I got all of this stuff in order and didn't have not a doggone client to bring in any money. So once again, the business, it wasn't paying for itself. Right. He's still paying for all of this stuff. Right. You know, or either it was ugly. It was savings, you know, were trickling down because we're steadily investing in this business. And for him, he would tell people, oh, now you need to talk to my wife. He was out there advocating for me, being a salesman. I don't know that though, right? Right. I don't know that until we get in an argument and I'm like, for real? So, you know that this is where I had to insert more clarity too. I was like, for real? So you wash the clothes, you know, Well, you gonna put them in the dryer?
The dryer, you gonna hold them.
You know, and then it was like, okay, you wash the clothes, you put them in the dryer, but I don't even know where the clothes are because you did both. You did 2 loads, but you just put them all in the basket. They lay in there wrinkled. And I had to learn to relinquish some of my expectations. And you're like, ugh.
Yes.
Because I am the kind of person that will wash, that will dry, fold, and some things to get ironed and hung up. And that's just like, because I tell people all the time, you wouldn't know it, but I'm way more anal than I appear. Entrepreneurship just broke me in to make me relax. But I had to learn to say, wait a minute. But I didn't have to wash and I didn't have to dry. And you know what? If I have to iron right before I put on something, the whole world is not going to collapse. But back to the point that I was making, I would be like, for real, you didn't do this? You'd be like, well, damn, August, what do you want me to do? I'm sitting there, I'm working, I did this. I was just talking to somebody the other day and I told him to call you. So he's not saying it, but his mouth is saying, I do support you. Are you not satisfied?
Yes. Ooh, can I just interject real quick? Okay, because that is just, I just have to pull that out because that's really important to say because you know, and I love that you and Larry have such a wonderful example for this because what you just said is so important because ladies, one of the things that we tend to do as people in any realm, not just in our marriages and our relationships, is to focus on what's not happening. To focus on the negative parts, right? And as human beings in your marriage, woman and man trying to connect, there has to be acknowledgement and appreciation for what is going well. And we forget to do that. And so it came out in not the, the easiest light, but it did come out that, oh snap, I didn't know you were doing that for me. So ladies, I want to encourage you to think about, acknowledge and appreciate what your husband does do to support you. In addition to the request that you're making to say, this is what I need, what are they doing that does support you? And it might not look like going to the events with you because maybe they're super introverted or they just really don't like they don't like people. Those people who are like, I don't like people. I love you, boo, but I don't like people. so they don't want to be around people and that, but they post it on Facebook, every day about your event. They're telling people about your event. They helped you get the equipment so that make sure that your event goes out without a hitch. My husband was sick. He couldn't come to one of my events. And he had our daughter and I was like, oh, I need music for this event. So he sat down and made a whole playlist for me to bring to the event. And so I could have sat there and harped, so you're just not going to come. You can't just blow your nose and just strap that baby and come to my event. You don't support me, But I was like, you know what? You stay here, baby. You encourage me to, I'm nervous. You're going to do your thing. Because I always get the jitters, even though once I'm in my element, you're going to be great, baby. And here, boom, this is the music. You don't have to worry about that. Just plug this in. You have a whole playlist. It should run for 2 hours. 2 hours of music that he put together because he knew I needed it. That is him supporting me. And so don't forget to appreciate and acknowledge what they do. For you, it was like, oh, you telling people about me? You getting the word out in the streets about what I do? And that looks like support, even though you did need some of the domestic duties to be taken off your plate as well. And so there has to be grace. Things are going to adjust gradually because you're learning a new way. That's the reality. This isn't how things were going before you were an entrepreneur, and now they have to adjust.
Yes.
So I just wanted to, I was like, oh, I had to get in there. Now that was good.
Yeah, no, that was good too with the way that you inserted that wisdom all up in that. And I love that you brought all of that out. And I want to go back to, another testimonial from my own experience about this evolution of support. Yeah. And what ended up happening is finally, yay, we making money in the business.
Right on.
But the demands have changed.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, there's still a level of research that needs to be done in order to keep taking me over the top. Now I'm needing to serve clients in a different, now it's not just doing live. I need private space to make sure that I'm having my sessions with my clients. And now I'm needing to host webinars. I'm doing all of these different things. And visibility became very important to me. It's like, I really, really get the gist of this and tapping into different, online platforms. And I would, my husband would come out of nowhere and be like, hey, you need to get on Periscope. You need to you can do live on this platform too. And I would be sitting there getting frustrated. Like, hold up. So you telling me that I need to go live on here, on here, on here, and here. Did you not see how much time it takes me to work through my day? And he was also managing my IG account. And he would be like, you know, so and managing the IG account, making up those posts, writing the verbiage up under it, putting all the hashtags. When you really are intentionally doing it, it takes time. Yep. And so we had this collision again. All I'm thinking about is serving my clients, being more visible, getting out there and building my business. You know, I was more mature in my entrepreneurial walk, but I still would have these moments when I would be like, for real, dude? You keep coming to me and telling me, you know, you need to be on IG, you need to be on here, you need to do live here, you need to be on this. And I was like, are you serious? Well, if you want me to do all of that, then why don't you help out and you do this? You know, the support word didn't come out, but it comes out in like help out, or you could do something extra. And we would be like this. Yeah. And he was like, well, August, what do you want me to do? You know, I sat here. Do you know how long it took me to find these videos on YouTube to get this information? Bam. I'm like, pause. This man is supporting you because research is heavy, and he's got the magic touch. He's researching something that he finds everything. And in like 2 hours, I researched something and it's like 2 days. I finally found the right video. Because it's just his secret sauce. But I had to pause and I was like, okay, wait a minute, babe. Let's sit down. And we had to go back to that whole conversation again and say, okay, it's not what it was before. Right, exactly. Now when I'm serving my clients, you know, it may not seem like that big of a deal to you. And maybe it literally means that during this time frame, you take the kids out and like literally go to the park. Because of the way my personality is, when I'm in a zone and I'm working with my clients, I don't want to hear anything. And once again, we were dealing with this struggle of, do we really take this money and have a super tight budget by putting the kids in daycare? Or do we make adjustments now and you work less on this job since you're an independent contractor so that I can do my job and make money, and then you can take the kids and just get away? Right. Because I had to say to him, baby, please just hear me. The kind of personality that I have, the way that I'm all in, I need that peace of mind. And it even came down to the smallest detail of, if, for instance, if I had an appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning, he'd be like at 8:55 still walking out the door. And I would be like, could you be out? If my appointment is at 9, I want the door hit. I want to hear the lock at 8:44 because I like to be 15 minutes prior to my session. I just want. Me too. Because I want to go over in my mind and replay before I sit down with that person. It ain't just like, oh, you know, sit down and whatever. You know, I want to zone. And so I literally even had to, down to the smallest thing, say, babe, don't just take the kids, and I had to reiterate, not that you're doing anything wrong, but because of my personality, this is what I need from you so that I can feel comfortable when I do what I do. And so it was less you do this. It was like, can you do this because I need this, because I'm built this way, because this was what will help me. And that conversation had to come out that way. And he had to make some adjustments because he's a little bit more slim when it comes to time. You know, I'm more tight. But he gradually. Yes, but see, you gave him the grace to get there. It's an adjustment for everybody, right? Yeah. So that's awesome. And one of the things that came to mind as you were speaking, it was like what I heard in that initial part where it's like, don't you see how much time I'm spending on IG researching for you? Well, don't you see how much time it's taking me to just do 2 social media platforms? I'm tweeting, I'm Facebooking, you know, and all of that, is that both of you wanted just to be acknowledged for your time. Yes. So you're arguing about the fact that neither one of you were acknowledging at that moment for the time that you were spending on things. But the reality for you is like, well, now the conversation has to be, you know what, babe, I get that, you know, I just want to let you know that I spend this amount of time, and for me, it's best. And, you know, I know what the research says and I appreciate that, but it's best that maybe I just focus on these two platforms right now. And as I expand, because you've given me this, like I can move on to that. And so if research is his strength, playing to his strength is great, you know, to be able to acknowledge that strength, but also staying true to you to say, okay,
I know in terms of the time that I have, and I don't want to put too much more on your plate with taking away time, that I'm going to focus in all hard on these 2 platforms. And then maybe we'll bring in Periscope, you know, as we move through. What do you think, you know, about that? And just having that discussion, but both acknowledging like, oh, I see it, you're spending this time here, you're spending that time there, right? And so you can see how important that can be, ladies, because you can get into a whole argument, not about the actual topic at hand, but about the fact that you don't feel appreciated and acknowledged. Then that becomes the topic, but that's not really what you can talk about. That's not really where the resolution is, right? In terms of getting the support that you need. And then what you did, August, is say, okay, I'm going to adjust and let you know what I need now, and be very specific about that. And in wrapped up in that, still appreciating, acknowledging his strengths and what he brings to the table, and saying, you know what, we probably gonna have to have this conversation more than once. It's gonna look different. It's gonna come up again, giving yourself room and space for not just you to adjust, but for him to adjust, because you were still adjusting. Because every time you realized something new, things started to shift, and then you had to communicate it with him. And so one thing I'll say to you ladies is just kind of succinctly is that to have expectation of your husband without communication is a recipe for disaster. So don't have the expectation without the communication, because what is that? You know, like you were supposed to do this. Well, I didn't know. What do you want me to do? Right. And then the conversation starts to go to another place. And so I love that you did that. Make sure that you're acknowledging what that looks like, and the support, giving yourself that grace and that space to adjust. People don't adjust like this to something new in their life. It does take time. And so having the patience with that, I know the P word is hard, y'all. I know it's hard to have patience, but, and making sure that you communicate. August, you're an excellent communicator. You communicate these things. Ladies, I know some of you out there, you like, look, real talk, my communication sucks. I do not communicate these things. And this is what we were laughing about earlier, instead of communicating and talking with your boo, you know, you just, you know, accidentally burn the chicken. Oh, you got the burnt chicken? I don't know how you got the burnt piece of chicken, you know. Oh, yeah, your work shirt ain't washed? My bad, I must have forgotten, you know. And so you do. You express yourself in all of these other ways, and that are not going to help foster anything for anybody in the marriage. And so, ladies, make sure that you're communicating. Don't have expectation without communication.
No, Lord, absolutely. And God knows I did have my little petty moments every once in a while. I was like, oh, okay. Well, we gonna see how this gonna work, you know, and I didn't do this, but I sure thought about it. I was like, you know what, he ain't gonna help with the laundry. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take out my stuff and the kids' stuff, and I'm gonna wash our clothes, and maybe he'll figure out he should do the laundry when all his underwear are dirty.
Oh, you know? Yeah. We know a mutual friend that was throwing away articles of clothing. I'm gonna just throw it on. It's gonna get thrown away. So yeah, you know, hashtag petty is real, you know, and we get it as we ladies, we know, but the reality is at the end of the day, we also know it's not gonna get you to where you want to be. So it's better to have those conversations. It doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be we need to talk, you know, because then everybody's running the hills. These things come up organically, and if you can do it without always coming at it, you know, frustrated, or, you know, coming at it like, blame, you didn't do this and this is what you need to do, and you can have a conversation that's fruitful like we've been talking about today, then that's different. Even for the spouse that you feel like isn't supporting you the way that you want to be supported. There, you know, I know you want me to go there, or you want to jump in, August?
I've been thinking, no, you can go ahead and take it. I just will say this, you know, this whole communication thing is going to justify why this last one doesn't happen. It's deeper than that, but you know, we're talking about getting the support, and some of you are listening like, yeah, this segment is really good, but no, my husband just doesn't want anything to do with what I have. But there's still communication is still at the core of this. Not just communication, also behaviors. Yeah. But I'm a wait before I dig there. So for some of you that are listening, you're like, no. Oh, my husband thinks that what I'm doing is a hobby. He doesn't want to support my business. You know, what do we do, Miss Imani Aisha, when that's the scenario?
You know, the first question I'm going to ask you, to be honest with yourself, is about where that's coming from, where you think that's coming from. It's also important to ask them where it's coming from. But just because you're sitting here right now, maybe they're not sitting here with you, is to really think and be honest with yourself. Where's that coming from? That sentiment, well, this is not, this is just a hobby. This is something that you're doing. I don't know how long this is going to last, because there are some women out there who have tried about 4, 5, 6, 7 different business ventures, have invested a lot of the household money. This is just real. Have invested a lot of the house. And we talked about this. I've invested household thousands of dollars of our money. You know what I mean? And I know you have too.
Yes.
Towards a consistent, goal. Now I have morphed and evolved in my brand and in my niche, but my goal has been the same. But if I had had, 5 or 6 different ventures that didn't work out, I dropped it, then the conversation that my husband would have had, the level of questioning and support he would have for me would look very different. And so the first thing I want you to think about is where that's coming from. Mm-hmm. And I encourage you to ask her. So do you think it's just a hobby? Well, look, you can be honest with me. Where's that coming from for you? And see what they say. Because you don't want to assume anything. That's why I say think about it from your perspective, but then ask. And you don't want to assume anything. But if that's you, it sounds like you tried a whole bunch of different ventures, you put a lot of money in, then think of if the shoe was on the other foot, there would be some doubt. There would be some uncomfortableness around, okay, we're going to invest in something else now. This is money for our family, for ourselves, for whatever. And I'm not seeing the ROI, you know what I mean? Even in the energy and in your spirit on this. Well, maybe you just haven't found what you're passionate about. I get it. But that means that you're going to have to dig in and say, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, and not just to show your husband, but to say, I'm committed to something. I'm passionate about this. I've taken the time to really hone in and focus and find this, and I'm going to work this out, and I'm going to beast my business. And I'm going to meet my husband somewhere. So ask him, say, okay, you don't support me in this fully. And I might not even say, don't support, right? Because there might be fighting words at that moment, but you feel like maybe this is a hobby. You don't feel like I'm serious about this. And, we talked about this, so I get where you're coming from, but where can you meet me? What can you do? What do you know and feel comfortable with? Yes. And start there where they can honestly say, you know what? Okay, so you need some time. All right, let's do a few hours a week and let's see where it goes. Or maybe they were like, well, let me know what's going on. Like maybe they'll say, hey, maybe I have some ideas. Can you talk to me about it? You'd be like, oh, really? I didn't know that you thought these things that you didn't know. You get surprised what people say when you start to ask them, okay, well, let's have this real conversation.
Yes.
So that's why I would say you really need to start, August, is to say, first figure out where it's coming from, where the feelings of, I'm not really digging this for you are coming from, and then address that specifically to see, okay, where can we start to build the support? Because it's not going to just poof happen.
You brought up something that hit me hard, and that was the whole conversation with, well, let's do this a few hours a week. Or let's work on this a little bit and then see where this goes. And this is important, especially if you are the queen of false starts. Mm-hmm. Start something and don't finish it, and then you feel like your spouse doesn't support. But I want to bring this up because I want to make sure that I insert the mindset for the parallel to business, because I see this all the time. Mm-hmm. The person who comes in the hardest and strongest is usually the one that's most unstable. The person that comes in business the hardest and strongest is usually the one that's most unstable. Wow. They're typically acting out of desperation. They don't really have a plan, and you're the one that will fold. It's a scripture that says, the race isn't given to the swift or the strong, but to the one that will endure to the end. And you keep on saying that entrepreneurship is an endurance game. And so, for instance, for me as a coach, when I used to do free groups, the person that would come in, it would be like, oh yeah, I'm just so excited to be here. I'm glad that you do what you do. And then I just have this question because I got a marketing issue, and then I got this issue and this issue. I know you can't do everything in one day, but how can you help? Because I'm really serious about my business and I'm going to beast it out. And I'm like, oh God, train wreck. Because you're trying to figure out everything in one clean swoop when things take a time and adjustment, and you're going to be the kind of person that you're coming, you want to get something and you don't get it, you're going to get out and you're going to be gone. And a lot of you Are you really not getting support, or did you just like do a complete overhaul on your family and your life without any discussion whatsoever? Oh yeah, by the way, baby, I'm getting ready to start this new business and I already know that it's gonna work because it works, and or whatever this vitamin is or this is, and I'm coaching and I'm writing books and I'm gonna get in here and I'm gonna dig hard, bam. And when the results don't come, and the attention is really you the one who has the internal issue.
Right.
Because the results aren't there that you thought would be there, then you got to sit down and you got to have a real conversation. And sometimes what is needed is for you to say, okay, before I just turn my household upside down and say, I'm going to start this new business. And by the way, I'm just going to shut everything down. You need to support me so that I can do what I'm doing. It may be to have some conversation. Maybe you're the one who needs to pause. And recognize where your spouse is at and say, okay, can we start this off where I'm doing about 10 hours a week?
Yep.
And as it grows and expands, because we've already said it, you got to go back and have those conversations. Now that 10 is looking more like 15, that 15 is looking more like 20, that 20 is like, oh my God, I'm blowing up. I need to do this full time. But that's part of it. So your spouse may not be supported because all of it, nowhere you just, they can't keep up. I mean, honestly, in a regular job, if you were at a job and all of a sudden when another company bought the company out and they said, oh yeah, by the way, everything you did, we're not doing that no more. You're going to do this way. People would fall off. That's why people do they do training, they do onboarding, they do transitioning, they keep certain systems and structures in. You can't just all of a sudden because you excited. Excitement, motivation is not a foundation for building a business. Motivation is not a foundation for building a business.
What about the days when you're not feeling very motivated?
Hello? And what does that say about you if you keep on leaning towards your spouse for support for that motivation? Because motivation has to be internal. And people may not be able to articulate it the way that, me and Imani are. They may not be able to articulate what we're saying, but they feel it. They be like, I don't know why she's talking about she don't run a business, because every time I turn around, she pissed off and don't feel like doing nothing. There are little things that you may be doing. Like I said, your communication and your behaviors. There are things that you may be doing when they're observing your behavior where they don't take you seriously. And so you have to put the mirror up to yourself and reflect and say, okay, is it them or is it me?
Right. Exactly. And that's why I say you got to start with you and ask yourself the question, because you can't look at them and, you might have to be prepared for them to say, baby, I love you, but you have not been able to commit to any of these ventures in 5 years. You have not really put in time and energy to do this like a business. That's why it seems like a hobby. You've been knitting these, these baby booties and baby hats. I think it's a great idea. Women love buying baby stuff. You know what I mean? Think about all the stuff we bought for our baby. And this is beautiful custom stuff, but you're not out there, you're not putting it out there. And I don't see that. And so maybe you're not passionate about it, but you got to figure that out. You want to be ready. And I'll say this as a caveat, as a disclaimer, be ready to receive. And that doesn't mean you're not going to, and when I say be ready, it just means open your mind up to it so that you don't shut it off. It does not mean that you're not going to have an emotional and visceral response. Because when people say be ready for something that may be uncomfortable, people feel like, well, suck it up. You're not allowed to cry. You're not allowed to feel about it. Doesn't mean that if you hear your husband say, baby, I just don't see it happening for you unless you do X. I love you though. That it's not going to still hit you or hurt you, or there may be tears, but you want to be open to that. You need to listen to that, because that is the foundation of where you're not feeling like you have someone by your side, and the foundation of where you're going to be like, well, what do I need? Like you said, what do I need to bring to the table now? Because this is my baby and my business. If I'm going to sell it as such, then I have to believe it. And my husband told me when I started my business, he said, I can't believe in you more than you believe in you.
And see, me and you, we have similar dynamics in our relationship because the communication is real and it is open. And that's a reality that some of you women aren't facing. If you're starting something and you're still finding your identity, it's like a person that marries to become happy. You're supposed to bring happiness to the relationship. If you're looking for your spouse to do that, then that's the glitch. And what I hear you saying is, you also need to be able to communicate that passion. That's another thing too. Some of you may just be saying, hey, boo, I'm starting this business and I'm going to make some money and I want you to support me. And it's kind of like, oh, okay. And that's all it is. Right. But no one will ever be able to see your vision the way you see it. I don't care how close you and your spouse are. No one will ever be able to see it the way that you do.
I agree.
but because your spouse and you are connected and they feel the passion and the joy and the happiness from you, how many of you have actually taken the time out to say to your spouse, look, not only do I want to tell you what I'm going to do, I want to tell you why I'm going to do.
Right.
So that they can really understand, oh, wait a minute, my baby want to change the world.
Mm-hmm.
My baby wants to impact children. My baby wants to impact mothers. And they see your natural raw talent and your passion, and to see that you want to do something great. Everybody's got a little bit of a dreamer inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
You may be awakening something in them by speaking your passion, but if you're not passionately speaking, this is another reason why your spouse, it's not that they don't want to support, it's not tangible. They can't fathom it. And so how do you support something that you can't see, let alone you don't feel, because you're not communicating it? So it goes back to the question Imani asked, do you really have passion for what you're doing, or are you just trying to find a way to make some money? Because it's going to come out in the wash, baby. It's going to come out.
Oh, yeah. And you will be burnt if it's just about the money. I mean, there are people who have left jobs where they're making multiple six figures or maybe seven figures and feeling good about it. And it wasn't enough, you know what I'm saying? So it has to be something that you feel really good about. And don't be afraid to take the time to really delve into and dissect that for yourself, because then you can come to your spouse and talk about your why, right? But if you don't know why, then you can't. If you don't really have anything to hold on to in that, then you can. And, you know, in August, you and I know the why is much deeper than the surface level, you know, stuff, but that's for another time. That in your podcast. So listen to that one, because I know it's in there. But yeah, that's real.
Yes, absolutely. So here we are, ladies. What is your picture looking like? Do you or don't you get support from your spouse? Have we given you some epiphanies where you're like, oh, wow, I really do need to do that? Well, even if you know that you need to do it, the question is, can you?
Yes.
And can you do it? Are there some other dynamics that have developed? And just going into that conversation, you may need some pointers with communication. If there's one thing that I know that Imani is an expert in, is understanding how to help you women understand how to open up that door so that you can start communicating with your husband, because it isn't enough just to hear this is what you need to do. I hear a lot of people say, when you know better, you do better. And I can't stand that phrase anymore, because honestly, I'll give this analogy. We know, a lot of you know you're supposed to save, but when you look at the check and what's coming in and what's going out, how many of you really do have an emergency fund? How many of you really are saving? It's not enough to know. You need to know, with all the chaos that's going on, how can I do this? So it's not enough to know better, to do better. When you know the how to do better, you do better. And the how may be the missing component for you. And I really, really would, you know, I'm pushing you only because I've seen it. I wouldn't have her on this show multiple times if I didn't know that she was the best at what she does. You need the help with the how. And that's just real talk. So talk to the ladies and let them know how they can get in contact with you.
Thank you, August. And right back at you, chica. But a little known fact about August and I were learning Espanol.
See? Just started, so be gentle with me. Y'all gonna see me busted out in a couple of podcasts.
Yes.
Because my teacher listens to my podcast, and so I'm gonna have to come out here and be like, hola, chicas, ¿cómo estás? You know, well, I won't be, you know, whatever. I might, who knows? But I'm going to flex just a little bit so she can know that I'm integrating it.
Yes, we have to immersion. But thank you for that. And ladies, again, you know, I know you heard in the Real Talk, you know, August talked about, did you get any epiphanies? Are there any takeaways? Make sure that you share them in this video. Go on the website, realwomendon'tbitch.com, and engage.
Real Women Don't Bitch podcast.
Podcast, my bad. See,
but they can go. Well, I mean, no, you're good, but they can go to the other one because the summit replays it there. But
there you go.
But that's another thing. They're to take them somewhere.
Podcast, yes, but go definitely and connect with August, and I know she will relay messages to me. But you You can reach out to me on social media. I'm Imani Aisha on Facebook and on Instagram. Always feel free to PM me. But for those of you who are really serious, make sure that you reach out to me as is available when this podcast drops, so that we can get on the phone and have a discussion about what that looks like. Because the reality is, if you are not feeling like you're getting support, and that is a discouraging factor in your marriage, to allow that to linger is going to cause so many other issues. And I always say this: the separation or the breakdown of the marriage doesn't happen because one big thing happened and it's done. It's all these things that you feel like are little things that you can just put by the wayside, or we had a good day, so that's not that important, that start to build up, that take away from the connection in the marriage and cause that to happen. So don't sleep on the quote unquote little things. So if you know that you need guidance on this, then reach out to me, so that as they are available at the time that this drops, that you can get on the phone with me for a 30-minute session to get some clarity on that.
Absolutely. And I just want to add this in here because you put that piece, the statement, the straw that broke the camel's back. You know, I love that statement, and I used to say it all the time in passing, because you know how it is when you're a kid, especially since I was raised by my grandmother. You got these little sayings that you just say them, but you don't really internalize it and digest what they mean. But you be like, yeah, that's the straw that broke the camel's back. They did this, and I ain't taking it no more. But so let's really look at that analogy, ladies, in comparison to what Imani just said. Can a straw break a camel's back? It can't. And so what that picture should be, what it should be painting for you is, but when you keep beating at anything, even with the smallest thing, it becomes tender and it begins to break down. So in essence, I mean, in reality, the answer is no, but in reality, the answer is also yes, but it's over time. So what little bitty things are you allowing to beat at your marriage? And you're taking it for granted. An argument about the dishes, that ain't gonna send you to divorce court. Right. Argument about the laundry, that ain't gonna have you living in two different homes. An argument about not getting support in the business, it's not gonna cause infidelity. But go ahead and keep on letting all of these things happen over and 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 over again, and then see where your marriage stands. But the flip side of it is, if you keep on inserting a moment of positivity, if you keep on inserting moments of communication, if you keep on inserting moments of passion in your relationship, then the ability to reverse the damage is actually exponentially quick. It goes by faster.
It's faster, absolutely,
than you think. It's like gaining, 20 pounds over 5 years. It won't take you 5 years to lose those 20 pounds once you make the switch and you're dedicated.
Right. Absolutely.
And so think about all of that. So I've already put it out there. I'm not changing my words. I haven't in all this time. Reach out to Imani Aisha, just to reiterate what she said. For those of you, we don't know when you're listening to this podcast. You may be just finding out about us 3 years later. We don't know what she'll be doing, but right now she is allowing you 30 minutes to speak with her for free if you're serious. If you're serious, but reach out to her and let's start allowing her to do what her why is. Her why is allowing people to see what's possible in marriages and saving people from mediocrity.
Yes. Thank you for that, August.
You're welcome. So thank you again for being here. But guess what?
We coming back, y'all.
We ain't finished. We are far from finished. We got 2 more really intense segments for you guys. And let me just tell you the name of the next one, because when we discussed these segments, I was like, ooh, juicy. The next segment is called Standing Naked in Front of the Mirror for Your Marriage. Figuratively, of course. We got a little bit of a poet and stuff like that inside of us. Actually, we got a lot of a poet, and so we like to say things. This is a very crystal clear statement, but when I read it, I was like, Imani, girl, why you started some stuff? So anyway, let me reiterate now that I got my composure back. Standing naked in front of the mirror for your marriage, figuratively, of course, discussing how emotionally grueling entrepreneurship can be and using it as a point of intimacy in your marriage. Yeah, I kind of alluded to this one in episode 1.
You did. I was like, I was up in here dropping breadcrumbs, foreshadowing.
Ooh, baby. So I look, for those of y'all that did not hear the first segment, go back and listen to that one because I got just a little nasty. Okay, if maybe that made y'all curious. No, but no, I was real. But go back, listen to the first segment, and then catch us next week, for the third segment, because we want to have real talk with what's going on for wifepreneurs and help you all experience joy in building your business as you're also building your marriage.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
So shall we say goodbye, darling?
Yes, unfortunately, but we'll be back. So I guess it's not so bad,
Look, in honor of Camille, hasta pronto.
Hasta pronto.
Thank you for joining me today. Remember to cultivate a mindset that is biased towards taking action. No bitching, whining, or complaining. Here, our mantra is, real women don't bitch, we get shit done. See you next week as I continue to bring you what you need to keep your head in the game and beast your business. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Would you like a specific topic covered? Have a question you would like answered live? Then head on over to realwomen.don't bitch.podcast.com. Subscribe to my email list, hit me up, and I got you. Interested in being a guest speaker? You walk the walk? Then you can sign up on the website too. This is your #1 advanced mental conditioning specialist for entrepreneurs, Mrs. Raw, Real, and Relentless. Signing out. Deuces.
Inspire, empower, grab your girls and soar a little higher. Unlock the fire in you, 'cause real women don't bitch. No, real women don't. Real